I should have seen it coming. The Thanksgiving gathering at my parents' house in Connecticut had all the familiar elements. The perfectly set table with Mom's good china, the smell of roasted turkey filling every room, and my sister Vanessa holding court like she always did. "Daniel's coming, right?" I heard Uncle Rick ask as I pulled into the driveway at exactly 5:47 p.m. Unfortunately, Vanessa's voice carried through the open window. Mom insisted, though I have no idea why we keep inviting the family disappointment. I was 31 years old and nothing had changed since we were kids. Vanessa was the golden child. Harvard MBA director at Goldman Sachs, married to a cardiac surgeon, 2 perfect children. I was the quiet one who played with computers in my apartment. "Daniel." Mom greeted me at the door with a hug that felt more obligatory than warm. "You're here. Did you take the train?" "I drove." "Oh." Her smile tightened. "Well, come in. Everyone's in the living room. Try to mingle, okay? Your sister brought some of her colleagues from the firm." The living room was packed with Vanessa's world. Her husband Brad stood by the fireplace discussing golf handicaps with Dad. Her 2 kids, Emma and Jackson, were showing everyone their latest academic awards. And Vanessa herself sat on the cream sofa, surrounded by 3 impeccably dressed women and 2 men in expensive suits. "Danny," she called out, using the childhood nickname I'd asked her to stop using years ago. "Come meet my team from Goldman. Everyone, this is my little brother Daniel. He does computer stuff." "Nice to meet you," I said, shaking hands with each of them. "What kind of computer stuff?" asked Marcus, one of the men. He had the polished look of someone who'd never questioned his place in the world. "Software development, mostly." "Oh, coding," one of the women said brightly. "My nephew does that. He's 17 and quite good at it." "How interesting," another chimed in, her tone suggesting it was anything but. Vanessa laughed. "Daniel's been doing the same thing since college. Very dedicated to his little projects. Mom and Dad keep hoping he'll get a real job, but..." She shrugged dramatically. I nodded and moved toward the kitchen, where Aunt Carol was helping Mom with final preparations. "There he is," Aunt Carol said warmly. She'd always been kinder than the rest of the family. "How are you, Daniel?" "I'm well, thank you." "Still enjoying your work?" "Very much." Mom turned from the stove, her expression concerned. "Daniel, your father mentioned you're still in that same apartment in Brooklyn. Have you thought about looking for something nicer? Maybe if you applied to some bigger companies, Google or Microsoft, you could afford a better neighborhood." "I'm comfortable where I am. It's just that you're 31 now," she continued, lowering her voice. "Vanessa had made VP by your age. We worry about you." Dinner was called and everyone filed into the dining room. The seating arrangement told its own story. Vanessa at Dad's right hand, Brad beside her, the Goldman colleagues in the places of honor. I was seated at the far end between Aunt Carol and my teenage cousin Sophie. "Uncle Daniel," Sophie whispered as the first course was served, "is it true you're some kind of computer genius?" "I wouldn't say that." "Mom says you built some kind of app or something?" "A few, yes." Before I could elaborate, Dad clinked his glass for attention. "I want to thank everyone for being here today. Family is everything and I'm grateful we can all gather like this." He beamed at Vanessa. "Especially proud of my daughter who just closed a $200 million deal for her firm. Vanessa, you make us proud every single day." Everyone applauded. Vanessa accepted the praise with practiced humility. "And Daniel," Dad continued, his tone shifting slightly, "we're glad you could take time away from your projects to be with us." Polite laughter rippled around the table. The meal continued with discussions of stock portfolios, vacation homes in the Hamptons, and private school applications. I ate quietly, answering questions when directly addressed but mostly observing. "So Daniel," Marcus said during the main course, "what exactly do you do all day?" "Just write code. I run a company, actually." Vanessa nearly choked on her wine. "A company? Danny, we've talked about this. Having an LLC for tax purposes doesn't make you a CEO." "I have employees." "How many?" Brad asked, clearly humoring me. "About 4,000. The table went silent for exactly 3 seconds before Vanessa burst out laughing. 4,000. "Danny, come on. You don't need to make things up." "I'm not. It's okay to just be a freelance developer," she interrupted. "There's no shame in it. Well, maybe a little shame, but we're family. We love you anyway. Her colleagues joined in the laughter and I returned to my turkey. Still playing with computers? Vanessa asked later as Mom brought out dessert. I mean, it's great that you have a hobby, but don't you think it's time to grow up? Get a real career? Maybe I could get you an interview in Goldman's IT department. Entry level, obviously, but it's a start. That's very kind, but I'm happy with my current work. Current work, she repeated, making air quotes. Mom, Dad, we really need to have a serious conversation about Daniel's future. He's wasting his potential. Mom nodded sadly. We've tried, Vanessa. He's so stubborn. Dad cleared his throat. Son, I know you think this computer hobby is going somewhere, but you're 31. Time to face reality. Maybe Brad knows someone at the hospital who needs IT help. I could ask around, Brad offered. What are your qualifications? Any certifications? I have a PhD in computer science from MIT. Well, that's something, Dad said, brightening slightly. Maybe with that you could get into a decent company's tech department. Work your way up. I appreciate the concern, but... My phone buzzed. Then again. And again. I pulled it out, glancing at the screen. 37 new messages in the past 2 minutes. I silenced it and set it face down beside my plate. Popular tonight, Vanessa said sarcastically. Let me guess, your gaming buddy's wondering where you are? Something like that. Dad's phone rang. He frowned at the screen. I don't recognize this number. He answered anyway, his voice booming. Hello? This is Richard Chin. Who is this? His expression changed rapidly. Confusion, disbelief, shock. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Forbes, you want to interview my son? He looked directly at me. Which son? Daniel, I said quietly. For what article? The cover story, probably. The table had gone completely silent. All eyes were on Dad as he listened to whoever was on the phone, his face growing paler by the second. $8.4 billion, he whispered. There must be some mistake. My son is A. He does computer programming. He lives in Brooklyn. Vanessa grabbed her own phone, fingers flying across the screen. I watched her face transition through several emotions. Curiosity, confusion, absolute horror. Oh my God, she breathed. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She turned her phone around, showing the table of Forbes article that had just gone live. The headline read, Youngest Self-Made Tech Billionaire. How 31-year-old Daniel Chin built $8.4 billion AI empire in secret. My photo took up half the screen. A professional shot from last month's board meeting. This can't be real, Marcus said, pulling out his own phone. Holy shit. Chandra, you're that Daniel Chin? Yes. Your company's AI platform powers half the Fortune 500 cybersecurity systems. 63% actually. As of last quarter. Mom had found the article on her tablet. She was reading aloud, her voice shaking. Daniel Chin, founder and CEO of Chandra AI, has disrupted the cybersecurity industry with revolutionary artificial intelligence systems that predict and prevent digital threats before they occur. His company, valued at $8.4 billion in its recent Series D funding round, employs over 4,000 people across 6 countries and counts Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft among its major clients. You said Microsoft, Dad interrupted weakly. Earlier. You said you could work at Microsoft. They're one of our biggest clients. They pay us $47 million annually for our enterprise security platform. Brad had gone white. The hospital just signed with Chandra AI. We paid $3.2 million for a 3-year contract. Yes, I signed off on that deal personally. Good hospital. You have excellent patient data security needs. Vanessa was scrolling frantically through her phone. Your net worth. Forbes estimates, $2.7 billion. Your personal net worth is $2.7 billion. It fluctuates with the stock valuation. Last week it was $2.9 billion, but the market's been volatile. One of Vanessa's colleagues, Jennifer I think, had pulled up my company's website. Your board of directors includes 3 former government cybersecurity chiefs and the ex-CEO of IBM. You're listed as founder and chairman. Thank you. I prefer to stay involved in day-to-day operations. Dad was still on the phone with the Forbes journalist, listening in stunned silence. When he finally hung up, he just stared at me. They want to do a cover interview. Next week. They're sending a photographer to your headquarters. We have offices in Manhattan. The main campus is in Brooklyn, actually near where I live. Made sense to keep my commute short. Your apartment. Mom whispered. That's not an apartment, is it? It's the penthouse in the building I own. 12,000 square feet. I bought the building 7 years ago when the company started taking off. Seemed like a good investment. Vanessa's hands were shaking. The Goldman deal I closed. The $200 million deal Dad was so proud of. That's less than what your company makes in a month. Our Q3 revenue was $847 million, so yes. Though to be fair, revenue isn't the same as profit. We only netted $312 million that quarter. Heavy R&D investment period. The table had erupted in chaos. Everyone was talking at once, phones out, pulling up articles, LinkedIn profiles, news stories. Apparently, my company had been featured in the Wall Street Journal last month. TechCrunch had done a profile in September, and Bloomberg had named me to their 40 under 40 list. How did we not know? Mom kept repeating. How did we not know? I tried to tell you. Multiple times. At last year's Thanksgiving, I mentioned the Series C funding round. You said it was nice that I had little projects to keep me busy. Series C. Dad looked ill. That's the one that valued your company at $5.2 billion. $5.7 billion, but yes. Aunt Carol, bless her, started laughing. Not mockingly, genuine, delighted laughter. Oh, Daniel. All those times they called you the family disappointment. All those times Vanessa bragged about her salary. How much do you make? One of Vanessa's colleagues asked me directly. Annually. My salary is $400,000. But with stock options and dividends, last year's total compensation was around $180 million. Vanessa made a sound like she'd been punched. I make $340,000 a year. I thought I was doing so well. You are doing well, I said honestly. You've built a great career. Don't patronize me. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You let us mock you. For years. You sat there and let us treat you like a failure. You never asked what I actually did. You just assumed. Because you live in Brooklyn. You wear jeans and t-shirts. You drive a 10-year-old Honda. I like my Honda. It's reliable. And I own a Tesla and a Porsche, but they're impractical for city driving. Dad's phone rang again. Then Mom's. Then Vanessa's. Word was spreading fast. The Forbes article had gone viral on LinkedIn and Twitter. People we knew, people who'd dismissed me at family gatherings for years, were suddenly very interested in reconnecting. Mr. Chin, Marcus said carefully, I don't know if you remember, but we met briefly at an industry conference 2 years ago. I'd love to discuss. You told me I should consider going back to school for an MBA if I wanted to be taken seriously in business. His face flushed red. I don't recall. You also said that technical people rarely make good executives because they don't understand markets. Then you asked if I'd ever considered sales. Jennifer had found a video interview I'd done with CNBC last month. She played it at full volume. My voice discussing AI ethics and the responsibility of tech companies to prioritize security over profit. The interviewer had called me one of the most influential voices in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, Mom said faintly. You're in Silicon Valley? I have an office there. And in Seattle, Austin, London, Singapore, and Tokyo. But I spend most of my time in New York. Brad was reading something on his phone, his expression growing more disturbed. It says here that you donated $50 million to MIT last year to establish an AI ethics research center. $55 million, actually. They announced it wrong initially. And $30 million to various cybersecurity education programs. $32 million. I believe in creating opportunities for people interested in tech careers. Vanessa had tears in her eyes now. All those times I offered to help you. All those times I said you needed to grow up, get a real job. You were trying to help based on what you thought you knew. Don't, she snapped. Don't be understanding. Be angry. Yell at us. Something. Why would I yell? Because we treated you like garbage. For years. Another phone buzzed, Sophie's this time. She gasped. Uncle Daniel, you're trending on Twitter. #3 worldwide. The hashtag is #secretbillionaire. I checked my own phone. My assistant had sent 17 messages, my PR team was in crisis mode, and my board chairman wanted an emergency call about managing the media response. I need to make some calls, I said, standing. Excuse me. I stepped into Dad's study and spent the next 30 minutes on damage control. The Forbes article was supposed to publish next week, after I'd had time to prepare my team. Someone had leaked it early and now we were scrambling. When I returned to the dining room, the atmosphere had completely changed. The Goldman colleagues were gone. Apparently they'd made uncomfortable excuses and left. Vanessa sat alone at the table, her perfect makeup ruined by crying. Mom and Dad stood by the window holding hands and looking shell-shocked. Brad was in the corner on his phone, presumably explaining to hospital administrators how he'd just had Thanksgiving dinner with Daniel Chen without recognizing him. The photographer will be here in 20 minutes, I announced. Forbes wants family photos for the article. They think it adds human interest. You can't be serious, Vanessa said. Unfortunately, I am. They're very insistent. Something about the family that didn't know they were dining with a billionaire being too good a story to pass up. Daniel, Dad started, his voice hoarse. I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. We didn't understand what I was building. No, you didn't. But you also never asked. We should have, Mom said, crying now. All those times you tried to explain and we dismissed you. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find a Forbes photographer and journalist, along with 2 assistants carrying equipment. Mr. Chin, the journalist, a woman named Rebecca, greeted me enthusiastically. We're so grateful you agreed to the family shoot. This is going to be an incredible story. The modest billionaire who kept his success secret from his own family. I didn't keep it secret. They just didn't listen. She laughed like I'd made a joke and ushered her team inside. The next hour was surreal. The photographer posed us in the dining room, around the Thanksgiving table with its half-eaten meal. Vanessa had repaired her makeup but looked miserable. Mom and Dad tried to smile but mostly looked stunned. I stood behind my chair, one hand resting on the back, looking directly at the camera. Perfect, the photographer kept saying. This is perfect. The American dream right here. Rebecca interviewed each family member. Dad's voice shook as he admitted he'd called me a disappointment. Mom cried while confessing she'd thought I was wasting my life. Vanessa refused to be recorded at first, then finally spoke in a flat monotone about underestimating me. And Mr. Chin, Rebecca turned to me, how does it feel to be here tonight after years of being seen as the family failure? I was never a failure. I was just quiet about my success. But they mocked you, belittled your work. They judged based on incomplete information. People do that. Are you angry with them? I looked at my family, my sister who'd spent decades treating me like a disappointment, my parents who'd wished aloud I was more like Vanessa, the relatives who'd pitted me at every gathering. No, I said honestly. I'm not angry. I'm just tired of being invisible. After Forbes left, we sat in the living room. The silence was heavy and uncomfortable. What happens now? Vanessa finally asked. The article publishes Monday. It'll be the cover story. After that, things will be different. Different how? You'll all be known as my family. People will connect you to me. Your colleagues, your clients, everyone will know you're related to the secret billionaire. I used air quotes around Forbes' chosen nickname. Dad winced. The golf club. Everyone at the club will know I spent years telling people my son was just a computer programmer. You weren't wrong. I am a computer programmer. I just also happen to run a company. A company worth $8.4 billion, Brad said quietly. He'd been researching on his phone. Your smallest investor, the one with just 2% equity, has a stake worth $168 million. The early investors did very well, yes. Mom stood up suddenly. I need to call everyone. My sisters, the Johnsons, everyone who was asking about you at Bridge last week. I told them you were still trying to figure out your career. Maybe wait until after the article publishes, I suggested. Give people time to see the story first. Daniel, Vanessa said, her voice small. All those times I offered to help you get a job at Goldman. All those condescending offers to let you work in IT. You were trying to help. No, I was trying to feel superior. I was trying to keep you beneath me because it made me feel successful. She laughed bitterly. God, you probably make more in a week than I'll make in my entire career. Success isn't just about money. Don't, she snapped again. Don't do that. Don't be generous. I don't deserve it. My phone buzzed with a message from my assistant. CNN wants an interview. NBC wants you back. Bloomberg is requesting a sit-down. What should I tell them? I typed back, schedule them for next week. After the Forbes cover drops. There will be more interviews, I told my family. More articles. This is going to be a big story. The tech billionaire who hid in plain sight. My PR team thinks it'll dominate the news cycle for at least a week. And we'll be in all of it, Dad said. The family who didn't recognize success when it was sitting at our dinner table. Probably yes. Aunt Carol, who'd been quiet through most of this, finally spoke. For what it's worth, Daniel, I always knew you were special. Even when you were little, building those computers in your room, I knew you'd do something remarkable. Thank you, Aunt Carol. Though I will admit, she added with a small smile, $8.4 billion is more remarkable than I anticipated. That broke some of the tension. A few people laughed nervously. What do we do now? Mom asked. I mean right now. Tonight. I looked around at my family, imperfect, judgmental, but still my family. We finish Thanksgiving dinner. The turkey's getting cold and dessert is waiting. You want to just eat pie? After everything? Vanessa looked incredulous. Why not? It's Thanksgiving. We're together. That's what matters, isn't it? We returned to the dining room. The meal continued, but everything had changed. Where before they'd dismissed my opinions, now they hung on every word. Where before they'd talked over me, now they waited for me to speak. It was uncomfortable in a different way. As we ate pumpkin pie, Dad's phone buzzed with a message. He glanced at it and paled. It's Richard Johnson. From the club. He just saw the Forbes article online and wants to know if we're free for dinner next week. He looked at me. We've been trying to get dinner with the Johnsons for 3 years. They always said they were too busy. They're probably hoping for an introduction to you, Brad said quietly. Everyone will be. My phone lit up with another call. I glanced at the screen. Forbes. Breaking news alert. I answered. Daniel Chin speaking. Mr. Chin, this is Michael Rodriguez from Forbes. I'm the managing editor. I wanted to personally apologize. Our article went live 6 days ahead of schedule due to a technical error. We're scrambling to manage the situation. I noticed. The traffic has been unprecedented. We crashed our servers twice in the past hour. This is going to be our most read article of the year, possibly the decade. Congratulations. The thing is, Mr. Chin, we'd love to do a follow-up. The human interest angle is incredible. The family who didn't recognize they were eating Thanksgiving dinner with a billionaire. Would you consider an exclusive interview about that dynamic? I looked at my family, all pretending not to listen while obviously hanging on every word. I'll think about it. After I hung up, Vanessa asked, was that about us? They want to do a follow-up story. About tonight. Oh God, Mom breathed. Everyone will know. Everyone will know we treated you like a failure. Yes, I said simply. They will. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of phone calls, text messages, and awkward conversation. By 10 p.m. I was exhausted. I'm going home, I announced. Daniel, wait. Dad stood up. I need to say this. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry for every dismissive comment, every disappointed look, every time I wished you were more like your sister. You didn't deserve any of it. No, I agreed. I didn't. Can you forgive us? I considered the question carefully. Eventually, maybe. But not tonight. Tonight I'm going home to my penthouse, and tomorrow I'm going to deal with the media storm this has created. After that, we'll see. I drove home in my reliable Honda, watching the city lights blur past. My phone kept buzzing. Investors, board members, friends I hadn't heard from in years. Suddenly everyone wanted to talk to the secret billionaire. When I pulled into my building's parking garage, the security guard greeted me with new respect. Mr. Chin. I saw the article. I had no idea. It's fine, Marcus. Same person I was yesterday. Sir, if you don't mind me saying, your family must be so proud. I thought about Vanessa's tears, Mom's horror, Dad's shame, the Goldman colleagues fleeing in embarrassment. They're adjusting, I said diplomatically. In my penthouse, I poured a glass of whiskey and stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over Brooklyn. Somewhere out there in Connecticut, my family was probably still awake, dealing with the aftermath of the reveal. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Vanessa. I know I don't deserve this, but thank you for not destroying me in front of my colleagues. You could have been cruel. You could have humiliated me the way I humiliated you for years. But you didn't. I don't understand why. I typed back, because you're my sister. And despite everything, I don't enjoy watching people suffer. Her response came immediately, even people who deserve it? Even then. The next morning, the Forbes cover officially released. My face stared out from newsstands across the country above the headline, The Invisible Billionaire, How Daniel Chin Built a $8.4 billion empire while his family thought he was a failure. My phone became unusable within an hour. The story had exploded beyond tech circles into mainstream media. CNN, NBC, ABC. Everyone wanted the story of the modest billionaire who'd been mocked at Thanksgiving dinner. By noon, I had interview requests from 63 different media outlets, investment proposals from 17 venture capital firms, and 3 marriage proposals from people I'd never met. I also had a text from Mom. Your father and I would like to take you to dinner. Somewhere nice. Bar treat. Though I suppose anywhere we could afford wouldn't be impressive to you anymore. I stared at that message for a long time before responding. How about the place near your house? The Italian restaurant you like? Tuesday at 7. You'd come back? After everything. You're still my parents. That hasn't changed. But everything else had changed. The family failure was now the family success story. The disappointment was now the pride of the family. The invisible sun was now impossible to ignore. I just wish they'd seen me before Forbes did.